So, I hate to be the guy that brings this info, but I cannot tell you everything about every character and you will memorize it just by listening to me. You need to go out there and you need to try it on your own. And there's lots of little nuances, lots of little tricks that will help you learn the characters better, learn the game better, and just kind of learn why things work. So, for example, Jarvan's auto attack range being 175. That is not a huge deal when you first look at it because you don't even notice it. It might feel long, but you might just be like, well, he's kind of a big guy. It's a model thing. No, he has an increased attack range. And learning the nuances of how to abuse it, how to make sure that when the enemy last hits, you're there just stabbing him or poking him. I don't actually know how he hits with that spear thing. But when you're there doing that they can't respond. Because you can do that with Jarvan. It's kind of tricky, but you can do it. And just characters in general, you have to learn their nuances. Like, why is Twisted Fate considered hard to play? His laning is not amazing. He can lane well and supports the ganks very well, but he has some very hard counters. His ult is kind of tricky to use because you can just suicide yourself. And also, I mean, pick a card. You have to pick a card. And you learn these weird skills. Like, pick a card isn't about knowing the timing. It partially is. It's partially just being able to look down at the bottom of your screen. So I'd say about this area right here where my hand is. Look down there and just be like, oh yeah, that's blue now. I can wait. Okay, gold, go. And I mean, who do you have to look down there for just constantly? I mean, we all look down at the bottom of the screen for, cooldowns and all that, but we don't look there to use our skills. We look there to see when they're back up. And just lots of little nuances in all the characters you play. You'll figure them out, you'll play them. And especially if you kind of look within yourself and kind of go very introspective, which is a very scary thing to do, introspection. Oh, terrifying. But doing these things will help you get better. I mean, that's the truth. And this is when you'll start seeing flaws in your gameplay and flaws in the champion and how to overcome them, how to support them. Twisted Fate, to go back onto him, he's very dependent on his auto attack, so anybody who can get skills out before he can finish his auto attack, or if just the projectiles in the air can punish him quite a bit. You can punish him because you're going to know that his auto attack is going to be on cooldown if he attacks something else. Just lots of little weird nuances, and they really, really make you better. And I'm just saying, go out there, when you play a character, I like to always spend just a first game guideless. If I'm playing a new character for the first time, even if it's new or if I haven't played them before, obviously I will look at resources for other characters just so I stay in the know. But let's say I haven't played Kale for a long, long time, and I see Rinsen's Guide. I'm like, I'll browse through it, but I won't really take anything to my head, and I will play. And I'll be like, alright, let's what are some items that work, some AD carry stuff. Okay, alright. Then I'll go ahead, I'll look back at that guide and be like, alright, let me try it again. Let me try it again, following Rinsen's advice, and now knowing what I know. And you improve this way. That's how you get better. That's how I do it. You don't have to do it that way, but I highly recommend you look at yourself and you introspect and you just look in here and in here. Always important. Okay, let's go back into the replay. Yeah. So last we left off, Jarvan had just fended off the enemy team from Baron and was headed towards bottom to fight at Dragon. So what does he do in a fight? Well, he has two things. He will disrupt with his ult and have a massive barrier, as well as with his CC. And he will also do a lot of single target damage. Right here, he's on Janna, and he actually just bursts her down at the last second because he doesn't want that ult to go off. He knows that if Janna ults, all of the home team will be very, very out of position. It will be very, very difficult for them to really keep up the fight. Nocturne is on Twisted Fate. He's just doing damage. And a kite fight starts up with Twisted Fate, and Corki dies to the rest of home team. So Jarvan, with his mobility, keeps engaging in the fight and keeps chasing. Maokai will die. And overall, a very, very good fight. Killing someone like Janna is very important as Twisted Fate just suicides, because her ult is an incredible disruption, and in the case of someone like Corki or Twisted Fate, it keeps them alive. So you don't want to burst everything on the support. If you blow all your cooldowns on a support, guess what? They have other characters. But in this case, they got the support when she was out of position, and she was in a position where she could have really helped, and she was actually necessary for the away team to really go ahead and capitalize on their team composition. They have a lot of Kite, and they need to protect Corky, and they need to protect Twisted Fate. Corky also needed to be with the team, but people tend to flank very oddly at dragon fights, and it's generally not a good thing. You want to stay grouped up most of the time, unless you're poking them down. But that didn't happen, so they lost the fight. Now, Jarvan is going for a Triforce. This makes sense because he needs mobility in just terms of move speed. The slow will be awesome if he lands it, and it's a lot of damage. It also fits his damage style. Very, very long cooldown pokes in a way. So you get the Triforce proc with his skills and just makes his burst that much higher. In this part of the game, they're just kind of setting up for Baron, clearing waves. Very, very scared of this Baron because it can really change the game. So we're getting into the point of the game where teams just kind of hover around Baron. They're not confident in their ability to do it, though Jarvan does quite a bit of damage to Baron with his passive. I believe the damage is capped, but it's still pretty high. And they're just kind of being careful because they don't want to take any risks. Which is just, you play safe in this point. So both teams just kind of roam in, clear wards, roam out, roam back in, clear wards, and use skills like Jarvan's Flag and Maokai Sapling to make sure it's safe. Which is important in these cases. You got to make sure it's safe to actually clear wards, because if you don't, you might die. So they're waiting for a good time to either do Baron or to engage. Now the thing is, engagements are only going to happen when they've already started Baron because of the ward coverage, so they just go straight for it. And this is a good Baron. They are in a very good position to fight. And the only thing I don't like is that they don't have good initiate, because Ashe will start the fight with an arrow, but they're still tanking Baron, and they're really getting initiated on. So Sion takes the brunt of the damage here, and he needed to die. Getting rid of Sion got rid of a lot of burst damage, but he gets out. So that burst is still going to be there. Now Jarvan is trying to get into the fight. Jan is still up, so she can keep people out. And he wants to just kind of keep them off Ashe and just do what he can in terms of damage. Nocturne goes down, Sion gets great burst off, and now it's just clean up between Ashe, Twisted Fate, Corky, and Jarvan. The burst on Jarvan is too high for Twisted Fate to play a little kite game with, and it's an ace. And of course, when the last people alive are your carry and your top lane, that's pretty damn good. They go for Dragon one more time, gonna clean up that gold. And now they have to be careful, because the enemy team could respawn, they could go straight for Baron. And they gotta make sure it's safe. They saw Janna and Maokai in that area, more or less, and they have no vision, they have no wards, everything got cleared out in those long, long ward clearing festivities. They also, gotta be safe. It's just an emotional thing. If you don't see anything at Baron, they could be there. They could be doing it right now. And a note, Janna has oracles again. There is no oracles for the home team. So they need to be very, very careful about vision. Any ward they put down could be countered. Any ward they put down, or the home team or the away team puts down, can't be. So they got to make sure that they can auto attack a ward down if it's placed, or that they at least have good vision. They see the enemy team doing Baron. I believe Janna ult was actually used in that, and a fight starts out. So Nocturne has to go on Renekton. Maokai is trying to finish off Baron. Nocturne uses his smite, does not quite get it. And the fight's going to start with Soraka not here too. Luckily, Sion has quite a bit of burst damage, and is using that to kill Renekton. The follow-up from Jarvan gets onto Corky, and just bursts them with that ult. That ult does incredibly high amounts of damage to one person. And it is actually astounding how much burst Jarvan will do. And just to think about the numbers, I'm not actually exactly sure with bonus AD, but around the stats that Plasma has right now, it's going to be about 1,500 to 2,000 damage burst, and I'm kind of lowballing it just to be safe. So Jarvan is a very, very damaging character, but he's actually more of a single target assassin in a way. He doesn't have the damage Akali does. He doesn't have the damage that, say, A Warwick with 4 Blood Razors could put out, even though Blood Razors don't stack. But he does have a lot of damage coming out on one person in one time. And you're going to have that ring to make sure they can't get away unless they blow their flash or have their own blink skill, and you can follow up with your own 2 blink skills. Flash and the combo. And in teamfights, you just want to be on the right people. Think of him as Nasus in a way. Nasus, if you use your Qs on tanks, it's actually very, very bad because the armor will just negate all your damage. If you use all of your damage on tanky characters as Renekton in a team fight, your skills have fairly long cooldowns and you're not going to get a whole lot done damaging that Renekton. But if you get to that Twisted Fate, if you get to that Corki, and you have a lot of mobility to do this, you deal so much damage. You might kill them instantly, you might not, but they're going to have a lot of trouble in that fight. This fight breaks out. So this is kind of different for Plasma. He gets stunned by Twisted Fate at this point. Janna's going to knock him back, and he's actually switched positions. He's no longer fighting and diving the carry, he's disrupting with his ult. He sat there, he went ahead and put the wall down so Renekton could not get to Ashe without blowing his chases, and Ashe was more or less being protected by Jarvan. Now unfortunately he did die to Renekton, the Gator did bite him, but his role switched. And the wall is, I think, one of the most important skills in his kit, and it's not easy to use, and at the same time, I don't think people have explored its full potential. Having the ability to make a wall like that is huge. You can block off very large chunks of areas. You can block off just entrances into the jungle. The thing is, you have to rely on the enemy's positioning to do so, which is what makes it fairly hard. But just to talk about how much damage Jarvan can do in a 1v1 or burst situation. That did not have an Ignite, and I think that was the big deal. If he'd had Ignite, it would have been a little easier for him. And that was actually pretty scary for Jarvan, because that's a farmed out Corki. That's a Corki with a decent amount of items. I mean, we are at the 37-minute mark. This is the point where bruisers get into a lot of trouble just in terms of killing carries like that. But we're nearing the last few minutes of the game. This is the final push. Can they kill the enemy and take down their Nexus? Most likely yes, because they're quite a bit ahead. And Jarvan does have a problem initiating fights, which is weird because he has a good follow-up with initiation with his ult. The problem is, since he has no CC of his own, and you generally don't build him too survivable, he will generally die if you try and go in. Jarvan only has 2500 HP right now. That's not a lot compared to somebody like Renekton who built a Frozen Mallet. So you gotta make sure when you go in as Jarvan, you're doing it safely, or at least to a point where if you die, you did something that is totally worth you dying. If you go ahead, burst down a Renekton, then die and he's at half health, not worth it. If you kill that Corki, it's okay. It's okay, you did your thing. You did your thing. Now, Nocturne ult is down, so any fight that starts here is going to be initiated by Ashe. And if Ashe is starting your fights, it's almost always a good thing. Because if it doesn't work, you know what? Just back up and do something else. He goes for a bit of poke, but the poke he does is not too consequential right now. Malphite goes forward to do his thing, but Sion stuns him, actually gets scared off before his auto attack can finish, and is not able to finish him off. Now, Plasma's on Corki. He gets his Triforce and passive proc off on him. He backs up, trying to make sure that the Maokai does not do anything to Ashe, and Renekton too. Nocturne just walks in from behind, and they're able to clean this up. The enemy team surrenders, and it's GG. Actually, no, I think minions killed that Nexus. Alright, the studio is saying adios, and I'll see you next daily.